Boxing's pound for pound king is looking to unify at super middleweight against the super talented Billy Joe Saunders. Let's take a look at where this one may be won and lost. Well, Darren, Canelo Alvarez is one of the most well-rounded fighters in the last 25 years. Very hard to pick any holes in this game. If I had to push you on maybe one, what would you say?
Well, I think he struggles at times with foot speed.
One guy that did take advantage of that and was a southpaw too, he was Erislandy Lara. Let's look at some of the ways he was able to negate the offense of Canelo Alvarez throughout a very, very close fight. We know that lateral movement of those Cuban fighters is crucial. Changing direction, never staying in one place for too long. Let's just talk about some of the ring generalship that he showed.
The most important thing for Billy Joe in this fight is to be quick on his feet, but it doesn't mean running around the ring in circles. You can't do that. You've got to be intelligent. You know, this is a 12-round fight. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So he would like to do most of his work from the centre of the ring, from here. But try and get Canelo to lead with shots, so plenty of feints. Once he does move forward, Canelo, move round, and then back to the centre of the ring. Literally, he's almost got to imagine that there's electric on the ropes, and if his back touches the rope, bang, get off of there. Does not need to be on the ropes. We've seen how devastating Canelo can be once he's backed his opponents onto the ropes or into the corner. So for Billy Joe, lots of movement, but in a small area, you know, almost a ring within the ring. Get back to the centre of the ring, lots of feint, move back to the centre of the ring. I think it's important for Billy in this fight to have a high tempo with the work rate, but not lots of shots. Singles and doubles, move, singles and doubles. Needs to be busy.
The thing he does really well is drop into range and change his level up and down. The one thing he's got to be careful of is what we saw with Danny Jacobs when he switched to southpaw against Canelo on occasions. He was baited in by the Mexican and he walked onto a couple of uppercuts, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, look, there's going to be an awful lot of movement from Billy Joe Saunders, and there could be a case that Canelo may get frustrated at times, and the way to combat that is let your opponent come to you, draw him in. So you might see at times Canelo just stay there, bang, throw the right uppercut. Stay there. Try and make Billy Joe fall over his front foot as he's throwing the double jab or the right hand jab. Come back with that lovely right hand through the middle.
And of course, headhunting against Billy Joe Saunders is probably going to be a bit futile early. Yeah. But of course, if you're throwing that bolo, you're going to catch something, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, in and around this area here, you're going to catch something, whether it's the chin, the solar plexus. They're really hurtful shots. We've seen how hard Canelo punches. So, yeah, you're going to hit the target somewhere thereabouts.
The one thing the Cubans do so well is sometimes give you the impression they're about to change the direction they're moving without actually doing it. But the impression, it's almost a feint with the feet, isn't it?
Exactly. Not only can you feint with your hands, you can feint with your feet. So if I move into my right, little check, bang. And it just gives the impression to your opponent that you're going to change direction, and it really does unsettle you.
So essentially, by eating into Canelo's rhythm and making him stop, start and reset all the time.
And you know, you're hoping that he's going to load up and try and go that way, the way that you've checked. But obviously you're gone, back to the centre of the ring and off to work you go.
So this is just a little use of the feint because, as we know, Billy Joe's going to be on the move for most of this fight. But you've got to try and break up the rhythm of Canelo somehow. Just a little feint, just watch it there. Just a slight twitch of the shoulder, it's all you need. Draws the lead hand out of Canelo, as we see there.
And when you get that reaction, you've got to make him count. You've got to counter, sorry. You need to come back with a shot. You've done the hard part, you've got the reaction, now counter.
Let's watch what Erislandy Lara does there, and he does exactly what you say. Waits, draws, comes back with a reverse 1-2, and then again, just exit and arcs round to the centre ring, gives himself space, measures with a jab, feints again with the shoulder. Just keeping him guessing, which direction am I going to go? Looks like he's going right, then goes left, goes back right, goes left. And all the time, that's forcing you to essentially follow the dance, where we always talk about fighters who lead the dance. In this situation, it is absolutely Erislandy Lara who's leading the dance. And you know Canelo Alvarez is a chess player. He won't like to be led and out-thought in that way. If Billy Joe can get one step ahead of him, that's a big win from early, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And that little check, the feint with the feet, gives you a bit of a breather because it stops your opponent at times throwing the shots because they're worried about what direction you're moving in and they don't want to look silly and load up and end up in the ropes.
So the one thing we have talked about is the frustration in spots that Canelo showed against Lara because of the movement. He picks him up at one point, doesn't he? And that's a little sign for you that he was just getting frustrated that he couldn't get to him as much as he wanted to.
Yeah, and look, we've seen Billy Joe Saunders against David Lemieux. how he annoyed him with the Ali shuffle, the swinging of the arms. I think that's what Billy will try and do. Try and frustrate Canelo. Try and get him to fight out of character. Try and get him to see that red mist, bite down on his gum shield, and then hopefully find the openings.
And of course, if memory serves me correctly, it was Mayweather that looked into the audience when Canelo punched the rope. Billy Joe Saunders did the same thing against David Lemieux. Could that be a factor on Saturday night? A psychological one and a small one, but every bit of percentage, I guess, helps him.
It's in his nature. Billy Joe Saunders likes to wind his opponents up. We see it with Chris Eubanks Jr. as well. He would definitely, from the first bell, try and annoy Canelo.
Now, another thing Erislandy Lara did really, really well was he only engaged when he had a good couple of feet of space behind him. So, as you mentioned there, he's going to be on the ropes moving and his back will occasionally touch the ropes, but it's not until he gets to a point of centering where he starts to plant his feet and start to set those traps. Why is that important that he's got the space behind him?
Because we've seen before how devastating Canelo can be once he's got you back to the rope. Once you're here, you can only exit left or right. When you're here, you can go backwards, you can allow space, you've got space behind you. It's almost like Billy Joe's going to have a homing beacon to get back to the centre of the ring. Do your moving, get out the way, back to the centre. There, you're safe. You've got space behind you. You can exit. We've seen how quick Billy can get out of range quickly, and he's going to need to do that against Canelo.
We talked about the kind of traps that Erislandy Lara set against Canelo and the ones we think Billy Joe may try and set against the Mexican. Let's have a look at them. Here's a nice trap that Erislandy Lara sets for Canelo. Little touch jab there, baits him back into range, makes him think that he's in the corner, I can let my hands go. As Canelo throws the jab, head off centre line, puts the left hand down the middle, then the right on top of it, and then just changes and gets back to centre ring.
Anywhere left of Canelo's jab is the safe zone for Billy Joe Saunders. If he's out that way, he's less likely to get caught by the right hand.
We see Saunders just set the same trap against David Lemieux, just dips that left hand outside of centre line, baits the jab of Lemieux, straight left hand with no tell, catches his man on the way in and again just arcs himself round. Little bit of showboating, as you mentioned, just to try and frustrate Canelo. There's the Ali shuffle, and you think that if he can have spots of success, a little bit of flamboyance, just to get the crowd on their feet and get in Canelo's head a little bit, just could start making him reach and just those little bits of frustration.
Yeah, you want him to get that red mist. You want him to bite down his gum shield. You want to frustrate Canelo, get him to fight out of character. If Billy can do that, make Canelo fall short with his shots, lean over his front foot, he's got a chance to really, really score some decent points.
So we saw Erislandy Lara set quite a clever trap against Canelo, kind of exiting round to this side of the Mexican. Billy Joe Saunders did the same thing against David Lemieux. It could work well for him.
Yeah, and it's all about taking the head off centre line, missing the lead shot from Canelo, and then coming round to that safe zone out of trouble. So if you throw the jab, bang, and he'll throw that right hand and pivot round. He's out of trouble there. So
show me once more. Yeah,
move round.
Nice. And I guess the crucial thing here is if Canelo does throw a 1-2, if you dip off centre line, don't come back on the line. Stay there.
No. Stay in that safe zone. Stay out of the way. When you're here, you're out of trouble. He's got an awful long way to go with that right hand to catch you. But you can keep moving around your opponent here.
Of course. But if, of course, you do dip back up onto the line and that right hand comes down the middle, you could walk onto one.
Exactly.
So when we talk about setting up the left hand for Billy Joe himself, it's looking at changing the feet position just before he throws it. So going down what you call that kind of safe zone, down Billy Joe's right channel, Canelo's left. So here he's right in front of Lemieux, and then watch how quickly he adjusts that feet. Big shift in there, and that opens up a direct line of fire, doesn't it, for that left hand?
It does, to either head or body. You know, you've got options there, and once you've landed the shot, you can go again. Keep going around that direction, even behind your opponent. We've seen lots of fighters do that in the past. The referee can't say anything. Look, it doesn't get much tougher for Billy Joe Saunders, but if he can do some of that into the fight, stick to a very good game plan, he's got half a chance.
So high stakes then for Billy Joe Saunders and Canelo Alvarez. The slick southpaw against the Mexican pressure fighter. Who will prevail for the unified super middleweight championship of the world?